She would rather sleep anywhere but home, just to avoid facing her mother-in-law. Hoping the woman was already asleep, Stacy quietly slipped into the house, but then she heard a faint whisper. She paused, listened, and what she overheard left her completely shaken. I just wanted to avoid her for one more night. I never expected to hear that. If I had just stayed out 20 minutes longer, if I hadn't come home at that exact moment, maybe I never would have known the truth. But I did. And once I heard it, there was no going back. I used to call this place home, but lately, I time my arrival like a thief. I stand by the front gate, hold my breath, and scan for lights through the kitchen blinds. If the hallway lamp is on, I walk another block. If the porch is lit, I sit in my car and scroll until my eyes blur. Because the truth is, I'd rather sleep in a parking lot than face that woman. My dear mother-in-law. Her name is Donna. But I don't say her name out loud anymore, because even her name feels like a slap across the mouth. To everyone else, she's a sweet, older lady who brings casserole to neighbors and quotes scripture when it suits her. To me, she's a loaded weapon, quiet, polished, and always pointed straight at my heart. I don't remember when exactly she started hating me. Maybe it was the wedding. Maybe it was when her son Ryan moved into my apartment instead of taking her up on the offer of living in the basement. Maybe it was simply because I existed. But over time, her contempt became air. I breathe it in every time I enter the house. That night I came home after 11. The moon was high. The wind smelled like cut grass. I parked 3 houses down like always. I took off my heels before stepping on the porch, so she wouldn't hear me. Unlocked the door with the gentleness of a ghost, held my purse to my chest, and crept inside. No lights. I exhaled. Good. She's asleep. I tiptoed past the kitchen toward the stairs, but then I heard it. A voice. Low. Almost a whisper. And then another voice. Also female. Not mine. I froze. 2 women talking. Late at night. In my house? I took a step back toward the kitchen. My heart began to pound. Not from fear, but from the sick, deep sense of knowing. Something was wrong. The voices grew clearer. One of them was Donna. The other was my sister-in-law. Ryan's sister. Katie. I crouched by the pantry out of sight and listened. She doesn't even notice, Donna was saying, her voice tight with disdain. She walks around like she belongs here, like she built this family herself. Katie scoffed. She's clueless. Ryan's been coming over to my place every Friday after working late. I pressed my hand to my chest. What? Donna chuckled. It's almost pathetic. She really thinks he's faithful. She still thinks they're trying for a baby, Katie whispered. Silence, then laughter, soft, cruel laughter, from both of them. My ears rang. My knees went weak. I tried to breathe, quietly. I didn't want them to know I was there. I didn't want them to stop talking. Because now I needed to hear everything. I told Ryan years ago, Donna continued, that she wasn't wife material. She's fragile, too emotional. Her family's a mess. Look at her mother, alcoholic and living in a trailer. She doesn't deserve him, Katie added. She never did. She's a placeholder, Donna said. We just needed her for a few years. Now that things are stable, he can move on. I bit the inside of my cheek. Hard. I tasted blood. Every word slashed across my chest like a dull blade. And still, I listened. Katie's voice turned gleeful. He told me he's been texting Ellie again. You remember her? Of course, Donna said. The redhead. I always liked her. He says he's never stopped thinking about her. Oh, honey, Donna laughed. I always knew she'd be back in the picture eventually. That's when I heard the clink of coffee mugs, They were sitting at my kitchen table, drinking tea, and destroying my marriage like it was nothing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to kick the door open and throw the mugs against the wall, but instead I backed away. Slow, silent, shaking. I climbed the stairs without making a sound, walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and vomited into the sink. I rinsed my mouth, looked at my reflection, and whispered, "I'm going to burn them all to the ground." That night, I heard them plotting my ruin, but what they didn't know is that I was already planning theirs. People love to say, "What you don't know can't hurt you." But they're wrong. What you don't know can grow in the dark like mold and rot everything from the inside. And what I had just heard, that rot had been in my house for years. I didn't sleep that night, not a single second. I sat in the dark corner of our bedroom, knees pulled up, listening to the soft creak of the floorboards downstairs and the occasional clink of a spoon in a ceramic mug. I heard Donna laugh again. Low, muffled. The way someone laughs when they know they've won. I stared at the faint moonlight tracing the edge of the dresser. I imagined standing in front of her and Katie. I imagined slapping those smug smiles off their faces. But no, I needed something better than screaming, something sharper than rage. I needed truth. I needed proof. At 6:12 a.m., Ryan walked in. His tie was loose. His eyes were tired. He looked like a man who'd slept through peace while the world around him had burned to ash. "Hey, babe," he muttered, setting his phone on the nightstand. "Didn't hear you come in last night." I didn't move. "You okay?" Silence. He squinted at me through the half-light. His face shifted, that flicker of suspicion. "Were you crying?" I cleared my throat. "No, just tired." He nodded slowly, too slowly, like he didn't believe me, but also didn't care enough to dig deeper. That used to hurt. But now, it was useful. The more he underestimated me, the cleaner my revenge would be. By 7 a.m., I was in the guest bathroom, typing on my phone like a woman possessed. I looked up Ryan's old phone bills. I had the password. Of course I did. I found 3 months of late-night texts to a number not saved in his phone. Checked that number against Katie's Instagram followers. And there she was. Ellie, the redhead, the one Donna always liked. She lived in San Diego now, ran some kind of wellness retreat, and Ryan had texted her over 180 times in the last month, most between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. He wasn't just texting her. He was confiding in her, complaining about me. I read, "She's always so distant. We're not on the same page anymore. I just want to feel understood again." And then this. "Wish I was with you tonight. I still remember your freckles." My stomach turned. It wasn't just a fantasy, it was a plan in motion. Over the next 2 days, I became someone else. Someone calculated, patient, unshakable. While Donna made snide comments over breakfast, I smiled and nodded. When Katie dropped by with extra pie, I thanked her sweetly. I even rubbed Ryan's shoulders when he complained about work. Because now, I wasn't just his wife. I was the enemy within. I ordered a hidden camera. 2, actually. 1 for the kitchen, 1 for the upstairs hallway. I installed them myself, late at night while Ryan snored and Donna watched late-night televangelists in the guest room. I backed up every text message from his phone. I synced his iCloud to my laptop. And I began to build a dossier. Not out of curiosity, but preparation. If they wanted war, I would give them one. And I would fight with something they had never expected. Proof. On Thursday, I asked Ryan if he'd be working late again. "Yeah," he muttered, not even looking up from his phone. Quarterly numbers came in messy. "Okay," I said. "I'll be at my friend Michelle's. Don't wait up." He grunted. Didn't ask a single question. Perfect. I drove 3 blocks, parked, waited. At 7:49 p.m., Katie's car pulled into the driveway. At 8:13 p.m., Ryan walked out of the house. He kissed Donna on the cheek, then got into Katie's car. I recorded the whole thing. My hands didn't shake, my breath was steady, because the time for crying was over. It was time to burn their little kingdom to the ground. They thought I'd be too broken to act. But the truth, I was just getting started. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I wanted mine ice-crusted, sharpened, and plated with silver. Because once you realize your love was a performance, you stop crying and start directing the next act. I called the law office the next morning, didn't hesitate, didn't stutter, just said, "I need a consultation. Discreet, urgent. I have evidence of infidelity." They booked me for Monday, a female attorney. I requested that, because I needed someone who wouldn't blink when I told her I wanted everything. The house, the accounts, and his mother's silence. That weekend I played my part. I made Ryan breakfast, chatted with Donna over tea. I even sat through one of her stories about Ryan's perfect ex-girlfriend Ellie, and how things might have turned out differently if God had just intervened. I smiled and said, "God has his plans." And oh, how right I was. Because while they praised the past, I was scripting the future. Monday came. I wore a gray blouse, black slacks, and no makeup. No trace of desperation. No hint of chaos. I brought the folder with me. Screenshots of texts, dates and times of his work nights. Camera footage of Katie picking him up, audio recordings of Donna and Katie mocking me. The attorney, Miss Fenner, reviewed everything in silence. Then she leaned back, folded her hands, and smiled. "You're going to win," she said, "and you're going to win beautifully." I almost cried, but I didn't. Not yet. "I want to keep the house," I told her, "and I want to make sure he doesn't get away with claiming any kind of emotional hardship. He's playing the victim with another woman." She nodded. "We can file fault-based, adultery, emotional cruelty, and defamation. We'll keep your identity shielded until we serve him. If you want, I can issue a cease and desist to his mother and sister for harassment. We have more than enough. More than enough." Those words rang in my head like a church bell. For so long, I had felt like I wasn't enough. Now, I had more than they could ever imagine. That night, I sat in bed beside Ryan. He scrolled through his phone. I scrolled through plans. He looked over and said, "You seem better lately." I smiled. "I've been sleeping better." He nodded. Didn't know he was lying next to a war machine. The first strike was silent. A subpoena delivered to Ellie's business email. Request for communication logs. Undisclosed source. Miss Fenner's team handled it. The second strike was personal. I mailed Donna a handwritten card. "Thank you for everything you've done for our marriage. Your loyalty, your honesty, your kindness. I will never forget it. Stacy." No threat, no sarcasm, just enough sincerity to make her feel invincible. Because the third strike was the fall. On Thursday, Ryan left for a team-building retreat. Katie dropped him at the airport. That same evening, I hosted a dinner at our home. 3 of my closest friends, 2 neighbors, and Miss Fenner, dressed casually, introduced as a cousin from Boston. I made lasagna. I smiled. I laughed. And when one of my friends asked, "How's Ryan doing?" I said, "Busy, but I think he's finally ready to be a better man. I'm helping him take accountability." They all nodded. Supportive, clueless, just like Ryan had been for months. Later that night, as I washed dishes, Donna came into the kitchen. "Dinner smelled good," she said. "Even from downstairs. There's plenty left," I offered sweetly. She looked at me, suspicious. You're awfully pleasant lately. I tilted my head. Aren't I always? She narrowed her eyes, and for a brief second I saw it. She felt it. Something was coming, she just didn't know what, and I wasn't about to spoil the surprise. They thought I'd beg. They thought I'd break. But now, they're walking straight into the storm I built with my bare hands. They whispered behind closed doors. They mocked me over tea. But when the envelope arrives, and the seal is broken, the silence will belong to them. He came back from his team-building retreat on Sunday night, tanned, relaxed, and smiling like a man who believed the world still belonged to him. I met him at the door, kissed his cheek, helped him carry his suitcase upstairs. He told me about the fire pit, the trust exercises, the colleague who brought a ukulele. I nodded, laughed in the right places, because in 24 hours, his entire life was going to fall through the floor. Monday morning, 9:14 a.m. Ryan stood in the kitchen sipping coffee. Donna was making eggs, humming gospel. Katie sat on the counter, scrolling through her phone like she owned the place. I had never felt so calm. Then the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I said softly. They didn't even look up. I opened the door, signed for the envelope, turned back into the kitchen. "Honey," I said, "this is for you." I handed it to him with both hands. The room was so quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock over the stove. He looked at the envelope, looked at me. "What is this?" I shrugged. "Guess you'll have to read it." He tore it open, read the first few lines, and turned white. "What the hell is this, Stacy?" Donna dropped her spatula. Katie froze mid-scroll. I smiled. "Divorce papers. Filed under adultery and emotional cruelty. You'll see the documentation attached." Ryan stammered. You can't be serious." "Oh, I am." He looked at Donna. "Did you know about this?" She looked at me. "Stacy, we can talk about this." "No. You can listen. For once." Katie stood up, arms crossed. "You're doing this now? With all of us here?" I laughed. "Oh, sweetheart, you were part of the us the whole time. Don't pretend you're just watching the show. You're in it." Ryan's hands shook. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been surviving you." He stepped toward me. "Big mistake." I held up my phone. "Try it. One wrong word, one wrong move. And this goes straight to the judge as intimidation." He froze. For the first time in months, he saw me. Not the doormat, not the soft-voiced peacemaker. Me. Later that day, Miss Fenner called me. "You ready for part 2? "You mean the cease and desist?" "Oh, no," she said. "That's already sent. I mean Ellie's statement." She flipped. My heart skipped. "She what?" "She sent an affidavit. Sworn. She says she didn't know he was still married. She's furious. She even offered screenshots of him lying." I closed my eyes, let the satisfaction settle like warm rain. "Good. That's very good. Also," she added, "we've frozen the joint accounts. You're protected." Protected. For the first time in years, I believed it. Donna tried to talk to me that evening, cornered me in the laundry room. "Stacy, you're overreacting. Every marriage goes through rough spots." I folded a towel. "He cheated. You helped cover it. That's not a rough spot. That's a conspiracy. You have no idea how hard this will be for him. Do you ever hear yourself?" She blinked. "Excuse me?" "You've spent our whole marriage coddling him like a wounded child. He's not a boy. He's a man. And he's about to learn what consequences feel like." I walked away, left her standing there with her apron and her judgment and her shocked silence. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the outsider in my own home. I felt like the one holding the deed. They laughed over tea. They plotted behind my back. But I've got the house, the truth, and a lawyer who smells blood. And the best part? The real war is just beginning. The house had always felt like an uneasy compromise, a two-story illusion built not on love, but on tolerable silence and immaculate furniture. Now, though, as I walked from room to room, collecting my things with quiet precision, it felt like I was sweeping a battlefield. Every drawer, every cabinet, every old receipt was a memory I no longer owed anyone. Ryan had taken refuge at a motel near the interstate, texting vague apologies that reeked more of self-pity than remorse. Donna remained in the house, a ghost wrapped in judgment, her presence reduced to sharp glances and the metallic clink of utensils in the sink. Katie, after the confrontation, had conveniently returned to her apartment, though I had a strong suspicion she'd only gone far enough to avoid legal service. Meanwhile, I wasn't hiding. I was preparing. Miss Fenner had secured a temporary freeze on all shared bank accounts, including the investment portfolios that Ryan had stupidly left in both our names. I transferred what I could to a separate legal trust, one she'd crafted for me with cold elegance, a move that Ryan, in his arrogance, hadn't anticipated. I had documents notarized, passwords changed, and a paper trail so pristine it could sing in court. But the real blow, the one I had been waiting for, arrived on a Wednesday morning in a manila envelope marked Property Evaluation and Title Registry. I opened it carefully, expecting standard appraisal documents. What I didn't expect was the truth about our home. Only Ryan's name was on the deed. Not because he paid for it. No, I had put down the down payment from my late father's inheritance. I had paid half the mortgage for 7 years. I had designed every inch of that kitchen with my own hands. And yet, legally, I was a tenant, an occupant, a guest. My heart didn't break, it hardened. What had once been a home was now just real estate. And if he thought he could throw me out like he tossed around lies, he was about to discover what it felt like to fight a woman who had nothing left to lose. That afternoon, I met Miss Fenner at her office. We sat in her private conference room, no windows, only walls full of law books and power, and went over every clause, every potential angle. "Can we fight this?" I asked, trying to keep the rage from cracking my voice. She looked at the documents, her lips tightening. "We can," she said, "but we'll have to play dirtier than we planned." I raised an eyebrow. "How dirty?" She leaned forward, tapping a page with a manicured nail. "We file a claim for unjust enrichment and constructive trust. You contributed financially and physically to a property that was presented as marital. We argue that he intended for it to be jointly held and that you were misled. If the judge agrees, we can request either compensation or forced liquidation." "In English?" I asked dryly. "In English," she said with a cold smile. "We either take the house or we make him sell it. He doesn't get to keep the castle while you're left on the battlefield." I exhaled. Slowly. For the first time, I believed that not only could I survive this, I could win. But just as I left her office, a message pinged on my phone. No name. Just a number I didn't recognize. "You should know. Donna is already talking to a lawyer. She plans to challenge your claims. And she's looking into guardianship rights. Says you're emotionally unstable." I froze. My fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles whitened. Guardianship? That wasn't about Ryan. That was about me. And it meant only one thing. Donna was trying to declare me mentally unfit. Not just to push me out of the house, but to discredit me entirely. In court, in reputation, maybe even in future employment. It was psychological warfare, and I was done playing defense. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I sat in the living room, lit a single candle, poured myself a glass of red wine, and opened my laptop. Line by line, I began writing everything. The gaslighting, the isolation, the financial manipulation, the affair. I attached video files, timestamps, audio snippets. I labeled folders with surgical clarity. I called it Exhibit Alpha. If Donna wanted to see what unstable looked like, she was going to see it. Not in me, but in the mirror when her world came crashing down. They took me for weak, for slow, for soft. But I'm not the storm. I'm the reckoning that comes after. The house had grown eerily quiet in the days that followed. Not the kind of quiet that brings rest, but the suffocating stillness that only exists in places about to be broken open. Donna no longer hovered in the kitchen with her coffee and Bible. She retreated, like a general recalibrating after a lost battle, watching from upstairs windows, whispering on hushed phone calls, filing complaints with veiled language. But I heard everything. I saw everything. Because I had become what she feared most, the woman who no longer cared about being liked. It started with a legal motion. Miss Venner filed a response to Donna's baseless guardianship inquiry with such venomous precision that the court clerk called to confirm it wasn't satire. We included character references, medical reports, psychological screenings, bank statements, recordings, and a formal letter from my employer citing my exemplary professionalism and emotional clarity in high-stress environments. I wasn't just refuting Donna's slander, I was burying it. And while she plotted to control the narrative through whisper campaigns at church and desperate calls to Ryan, I launched the next phase: public exposure. It wasn't messy, it wasn't loud, it was clinical. I contacted the Human Resources Department at the company where Ryan still worked, the same place where he met Ellie during her previous internship. I submitted documents showing abuse of company time, personal use of resources, and evidence of an ongoing affair with a former subordinate. They scheduled a hearing within 48 hours. Ryan didn't see it coming. I didn't have to be there to witness it, but I heard the fallout through mutual acquaintances. The formal reprimand, the demotion, the thinly veiled threat of termination if further ethical breaches were discovered. He came home, to his motel, and exploded via voicemail, accusing me of ruining his future and dragging him down out of spite. I played the message for Miss Venner. She transcribed every word. "Sounds like an admission of guilt," she noted, "and intent to retaliate. That'll look lovely on record." The next day, Donna cornered me in the driveway. Hair still perfectly curled, lips tight with disdain, eyes burning like wildfire trying to find dry brush. "You've gone too far," she hissed. I tilted my head. "You started this war with gossip. I'm just finishing it with facts." She stepped closer. "My son's life is in ruins. You'll never find peace for what you've done." I took a breath, met her gaze without blinking. "I never came here looking for peace, Donna. I came for respect. You refused to give it. Now you'll give me space, or I'll take everything." She froze. There, in the open air, a tremor beneath her stillness. And for the first time she seemed small, not weak, but dismantled. She turned and walked away without another word. That night, as rain clattered softly against the roof, I stood in what used to be our bedroom. The suitcase was packed. Not with clothes, with documents, drives, hard copies of every piece of evidence I had. I wasn't running. I was securing the perimeter before setting the rest on fire. I looked at myself in the mirror. A face I barely recognized, not from exhaustion, but from something harder, honed, elemental. It wasn't vengeance anymore. It was freedom. And I had earned it. You tried to exile me from my own story, Donna, but I took the pen back, and now you're just a footnote. The courthouse felt colder than I remembered. Not physically, but in that way institutions hum with judgment. The kind of stillness that makes you aware of every footstep, every paper shuffle, every eye that lands on you. But I didn't shrink from it. I walked through those doors in a slate gray suit and black heels, my hair pulled back like armor and my gaze locked forward. Ryan sat on the far end of the corridor, his jaw tight, hands clenched, eyes darting. Next to him, Donna, pearls, stiff posture, face powdered into nobility. And Katie, still scrolling on her phone like the world couldn't possibly touch her. I didn't offer a nod. I didn't sit near them. I waited with Miss Fenner, who whispered calmly beside me, her voice lined with assurance. "No matter how today goes," she said, "you've already won the narrative." And she was right. Because, win or lose, this courtroom was about one thing now: exposure. Their fortress had cracks, and I had brought the flood. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, took her seat like a queen who'd seen 1,000 lies burn to ash before noon. She wasn't here for pleasantries. We began with opening statements. Ryan's lawyer claimed I had weaponized emotion and orchestrated character assassination, that I was embittered, unstable, and intent on destroying reputations. Miss Fenner stood, adjusted her glasses, and delivered a statement so clear, so damning in its simplicity, that the room shifted. "Your Honor, we're not here to argue over feelings. We're here because this woman, my client, was systematically gaslighted, deceived, publicly humiliated, and made to question her own worth. What the defense calls bitterness, we call evidence. What they call vengeance, we call justice." Then she presented our case, piece by piece, footage of Katie picking up Ryan late at night, screenshots of text messages to Ellie, audio recordings of Donna mocking my mental health and orchestrating plans to isolate me, emails from his company confirming disciplinary action for personal misconduct, and, finally, the affidavit from Ellie, disavowing any knowledge that Ryan was still married and providing evidence that he lied about our separation. The silence in the courtroom wasn't silence. It was collapse. Every defense they built began to crumble under the weight of truth. When Ryan took the stand, he couldn't look at me. His voice cracked. He stuttered. He tried for a moment to act remorseful, to say he was lost and confused and pressured by family obligations. But the judge leaned forward, her voice like a scalpel. "And yet, Mr. Blake, at no point did you disclose your marital status to your new partner. Nor did you take any steps to remove yourself from the shared household. Do you expect this court to believe you were confused, or simply unwilling to face consequence?" He deflated. Visibly. I almost felt pity. Almost. Then Donna requested to speak. The judge allowed it. She stood, spine straight as always, lips tight, and said, "I believe my daughter-in-law has misunderstood certain events." But before she could finish, Miss Fenner stood and submitted our final piece, a notarized statement from Ryan's father, a quiet man who rarely spoke, but had sent a typed letter from Arizona in which he expressed his full support for me. "I raised my son to be a better man than I was," he wrote, "but it seems Donna and I made different choices in how to define strength. I support Stacy in her efforts to reclaim her dignity. She was never just our daughter-in-law. She was our mirror." Donna sat down in silence. The room buzzed. The judge declared the verdict would be issued in writing within 72 hours, but everyone in that room already knew. It was done. Outside, in the parking lot, Ryan tried to follow me. "Stacy, wait. Please." I turned. Not cold, not cruel, just complete. "You said I wasn't enough. Now you know I was too much for you to handle." He reached out. I stepped back. "Don't ever touch me again." And I walked away. He didn't follow, because even he understood now. I was never his to break. Some stories end with apologies. Some with revenge. But mine, it ends with me, standing tall, unshaken, and finally, alone on purpose. 3 weeks later, the official ruling arrived. typed, stamped, clean. The court granted full divorce in my favor, citing marital misconduct, emotional cruelty, and fraudulent concealment of assets. Ryan was ordered to forfeit all claims to the house. The retirement account we once shared was split, 70-30, in my favor. And Donna, she was issued a formal judicial warning regarding her attempts to interfere in legal guardianship through false testimony. I held the papers in my hands and felt no thrill. Not rage, not even joy. Just stillness. The kind that comes when a storm leaves, and you realize the silence in your bones is finally your own. The house felt different now. It wasn't warm, it wasn't cold. It was blank. For a few days, I floated through it, not quite knowing what to do with the absence of his voice, of her judgment, of the 1,000 tiny humiliations that used to echo in the walls. So I repainted, room by room, not to forget, but to reclaim. I bought new dishes. I threw away every mug they ever touched. The linens, the pillows, even the shower curtain. Gone. I kept only one thing, the small tea kettle my mother gave me when I left for college, because that was mine before all of them. And somehow I had forgotten what came before we. Now I remembered. One evening I stood by the window with a glass of wine and realized no one was watching me. Not Donna with her judging eyes. Not Ryan with his detached resentment. Not Katie lurking like a second shadow. Just the night sky, soft and indifferent. I was finally invisible in the most sacred way. Unobserved. Free. The next morning I booked a short trip. Santa Fe. Alone. I didn't tell anyone. I packed lightly, no makeup, no jewelry, no performance. Just me. I hiked. I ate slowly. I slept with the windows open. I let the wind carry away every last fragment of the girl who once waited for a man to come home with truth in his eyes. He never came. But I did. I came back to myself. A letter came from Ellie. Handwritten. She apologized. Told me she'd found therapy. Told me she'd left her job, moved states, and started over. And then she said something I didn't expect. You didn't just take him down. You gave the rest of us permission to walk away too. I cried. Not because of the pain, but because, for the first time I realized, my story wasn't about betrayal. It was about reclamation. Somewhere Ryan still tells people I lost my mind. Let him. Let them all speak. Because while they talk in circles, I move forward in a straight line, with peace, with truth, and with the unshakable knowing that I may have loved wrong, but I never lived small. You wanted me to be the footnote in your story, but I became the title of my own, and it reads, she left, she healed, she won.